Welcome to the people who are online and to those of us who are able to join in person. It's great to be able to be in person, and we're super fortunate with this gorgeous weather to be able to sit outside. We have a very full agenda. Miguel's going to have a great deal to cover, so he'll be up here next. But everybody has an agenda inside your folder. If you have not looked yet, you've got a pen. Of course, there's food. Help yourself to more food or drink over here. And we're going to go through a number of division updates. And if you have a short question, feel free to interject as we go through it. And maybe we can get some clarification if Miguel's saying something interesting that you want to dig into. But if we have meatier topics, we'll save those for after his presentation. So I'll try and give us some guidance on that. And then, so typically, as typical, we're going to go through faculty awards, operations, financial state of the division, matching gift programs, some equity, diversity, and inclusion efforts, strategic initiatives, recognize recent gifts, and then remember that we'll reconvene in May. So we're looking at Friday, May 5th. We want to check to make sure that that meets everybody's schedule, but just so you can pencil us in. Amber. Or Monday, April 24th, which I'm assuming is not Memorial Day. Super. Okay. For my next song, Miguel will come up here and begin the division updates. And hopefully, Anna, can you hear us? Can you nod if you're... I can... Okay, awesome. All right. And I will turn over the mic.
Thank you, Davida. Oops. Maybe I don't need to put the microphone that close. I still need to do that? I'll try to do that. Okay. It feels loud here, but perfect. Okay. Well, I echo Davida's welcome to all of you. It's nice to be back in person, be together, and so many things have happened. Also, welcome to all of you, those of you who are online on Zoom. It's definitely good of you to join us today. So let's see. Let me start through the presentation. We already went through the general agenda. It doesn't seem too long here, but the material that I actually ended up putting in the presentation is a lot. I was telling Davida that a lot has happened, and there's a lot of interesting developments that maybe we're probably not going to have a lot of time to talk about those today, but we can dive into those at our next meeting sometime in the spring. So in terms of divisions updates, so we start with honors and awards. This is since May 11. And I don't know if the next one is an honor, an award, or a sentence. But that's what's in the presentation, right? So I have been appointed Senior Dean of the College. Thank you. And so Davida asked me to explain what is that, what does that mean? And as you know, the College of Letters and Sciences is comprised by four academic divisions plus the Division of Undergraduate Education, right? The four academic divisions are, of course, us, physical sciences, life sciences, humanities, and social sciences. The Division of Undergraduate Education provides service to the entire college in terms of undergraduate education, makes sense. Now, each division is totally independent. So the college is a bit more like a confederation. Each of the four divisions could be well considered an independent school because each dean has a totally independent budget and is responsible for the well-being of each of our divisions, and that doesn't change. But the college is an organization, basically it's a service unit that provides some common services to the four units. Things like, HR, academic personnel services. We have a budget analysts. We have, administrative assistants. So it's a small service organization that serves the entire college. So the senior dean of the college has two roles. He's responsible for the well-being of the college organization, but he's also responsible for, has a convening role and also represents the college on campus with respect to, when there are meetings for all the schools, so the college has representation through me. And the senior dean will also have an enhanced ceremonial role, which is something that I'm not very good at, but I'll manage. Right. So that's basically what it is. Okay, so let me move on. So we have a lot of awards. I mean, our faculty keep really doing extremely well. I'm not going to attempt to read all of these, but I mean, you can see some of our more junior faculty, some of our senior faculty. They're all doing remarkably well. These are, 5 members of chemistry and biochemistry, including Abby Doyle, who is one of our new faculty who joined chemistry and biochemistry from Princeton just about a year ago, maybe a little less. Continuing with chemistry awards, so Pri Narang is, again, a brand new faculty member. She came to us from Harvard where she started her career. And Ellen Sletten, again, is one of our junior faculty. Hang Pham is not our other faculty, but he's one of our teaching faculty. So across the board, everybody's doing remarkably well. Further awards, as you see here. So we always have 3 to 5 faculty in this department that have honors as highly cited researchers. That just means that their work is gathering literally hundreds of citations in a given year, which is an expression of their influence globally. In physics and astronomy, we were fortunate to have 4 of our faculty named members of the American Physical Society, which is one of the highest honors that the society gives. And Wes Campbell, who's one of our atomic and molecular optics faculty, was also named the Gordon Betty Moore Foundation. He was named to the first cohort of experimental physics investigators. So, continue with physics and astronomy. Tuan Do, Alex Kusenko, and Shen Wang have gathered various types of honors. In math, Terry Tao received the Global Australian of the Year award. In statistics, Jessica Lee, she was named the Radcliffe Institute Fellow for 22-23. So she's currently spending some time at Harvard in Cambridge. These are our faculty awardees from the Institute of Environment and Sustainability. So we have Eric Hugt, Travis Lancor, and Kirsten Schwartz. So, recognitions for our department. So I figured I'll share this with you, right? So these are the Quarterly Consultancy World University Rankings. Of course, you see with a bunch of grains of salt, right? Not one grain of salt, but we know that rankings, have their issues. But I think it's important to recognize that worldwide, the disciplines that are covered by our departments, they're ranking well. I mean, these rankings include universities worldwide, including, the most famous private universities in the United States. Just so you know, I mean, MIT ranks #1 in all of these disciplines. So, MIT is an amazing institution, right? And there is a number of other remarkable institutions in the US, but also there are those in the United Kingdom, in Europe, in Switzerland, the ETH, for example. The rapidly moving Asian institutions like the National University of Singapore and Nanyang University. But nonetheless, we're ranking in the 16 to 19 range in our various disciplines. So as you see here, the key is that the number a little larger font, and white, that's the 2022 ranking, and followed by the 2021 ranking. And this gives us a 2-point trajectory, which is not a straight line, or well, it is a straight line by definition, but it's not a trend yet. But gives us an idea of certain consistency, and perhaps, what can we think about, what can we do to strengthen that. Then in parentheses, we have the public universities that are either above us in orange or just following us at some point. So for example, chemistry, we are number 15 in 2022. We were number 15 in 2021. And in terms of public institutions, Berkeley was number 5. It's number 5 in 2022. Between us and Austin, there is, as you can see, about 8 spots. So a solid, number 2 nationwide. A couple of things that are remarkable, right? That UC Berkeley is just fantastic. I mean, the reputation, the impact that they do have is amazing. But they have about 50 years ahead of us, so we have time to catch up. I'm not worried about that. We rank very solidly, as a second public university in nearly all of our disciplines. We need to strengthen our effort in geology, geophysics, for example, but other than that, also earth and marine sciences, which is not surprising that UCSD should be, ranked higher, the University of Washington. But I think this speaks highly of our departments, and so it's good to be recognized worldwide, I think. So, I think our rankings, our reputation, and our geography, and all of our assets, including our advisory board, have made it possible for us to attract really very talented faculty. So these are recent faculty hires in various departments. So there's, Hao Kao Peng Ni, Amit Sahai, Jacob Bedrosian, and you cannot see here, this is actually Hayden Sheffer. And then we have David Lebrand on the bottom right. They're all coming, we were successful in bringing them where many other top institutions wanted also to hire. So we were able to compete to being able to attract people like them. So, some of these faculty are actually established faculty that already had major programs, but that are critical to our mission. David Lebrand, for example, he comes from us from GILA, which is one of the primary centers for quantum computing. Hayden Sheffer came to us from Carnegie Mellon, where he already had a very successful trajectory. And Jacob Bedrosian from the University of Maryland, where also he's one of the top applied mathematicians in the country. More recently, faculty hires. Again, we're looking at 4 mid-career to senior faculty who are already extremely well established in their disciplines, plus a junior faculty who comes as an assistant professor, and that would be Derek Schaefer in the bottom left. So, I mean, it's just been, our departments have been very successful at attracting some really prominent faculty, which I think is something that bodes very well. Now, I have to, give a shout out. I mean, we were looking with Brooke at, some of our statistics, and what we've done with the help of this group is just remarkable. So I have here a list that you will not be able to read, but if you squint, you might be able to see that some of those lines are bold-faced, and those represent the endowed chairs that we have been able to develop in the last 5 to 6 years. So we have about 220 faculty across the Division of Physical Sciences, right? So ideally, we would like to have 220 endowed chairs at some point. Right now, we have 43 endowed chairs across the division. And 26 of those, so over 50% of those, have been developed in the last 5 years. So well, I have to say 4 of these are still in progress. That means that they're still accumulating capital, so we don't have a shareholder yet for those. We have 6 vacant, so there is a certain level of turnover in some of these, and unfortunately, we have 12 faculty searches. So we have many, many fewer endowed chairs than we have, faculty searches, or that really are incredibly important in attracting faculty. And on occasion, we do have also retention issues that are important. So, you can see also that you can see the maturity of the department with respect to their development efforts. So chemistry and biochemistry, as you see, is the section shaded in sort of greenish. And they already had the largest number of endowed chairs, and the chemistry has been very successful at attracting a significant number of further additional chairs. We need to, certainly we can do better in EPSS, so we'll work with the department and the faculty trying to, enhance their development efforts. I would argue that the most meaningful and deepest experience that the students have in our division are those of EPSS, because they have a lot of field work. They interact with each other. They camp, right? They go to, mountains and volcanoes. So they have the biggest engagement, and I think the fact that we don't have a very large philanthropic presence means that we just haven't worked hard enough. Of course. Yes, that's right. I can tell you an approximate number. So in terms of the number of majors, mathematics is the largest. So we have, every time I say it, I just can't believe it. We have about 2,000 math majors, undergraduates, right? I just think that it's amazing that the most brilliant and talented math high school students in the state and in the country want to come to UCLA. It's just amazing, right? Following math, the next largest department in terms of undergraduate population is chemistry and biochemistry. Probably about 1,300 students, also a very large major. That is followed by physics and astronomy on the order of about 350 majors, right? That will be followed by statistics, which is very close to 300, something in that range. And then we have probably AOS with somewhere in the order of 60 to 70 majors, and EPSS is the smallest with about 40 majors. And then the Institute of the Environment and Sustainability will have on the order of about 200 majors. So the largest departments are math, chemistry, and physics, basically followed by IOES and statistics. In terms of number of faculty, there is not necessarily a correlation. The math has about 50 faculty, ladder faculty, right? Chemistry has also about 50 faculty, a little less than 50, chemistry and biochemistry. Physics and astronomy is the largest department. They have about 75 faculty. Roughly, maybe about 55 or so physicists, and the rest would be astronomers. Right, and then EPSS and AOS will have somewhere in the order of about 20 to 30 faculty. IOES is super tiny in terms of faculty who actually are associated with the institute. They have on the order of maybe 8 or so faculty. So they really need more faculty. And then statistics is also has a small number of faculty considering the size of the department. They have about probably 12 to 13 faculty, roughly speaking. So in terms of the number of endowed chairs and faculty, chemistry and biochemistry is doing extremely well. Physics and astronomy is really building up. So many of you have contributed. Of course, Howard recently and Astrid recently donated a chair, and we're very grateful for that, a chair in astronomy. So, I think when we work together, we see results, and we need to work, certainly continue working on this. But this has been extremely important for us in terms of our success in recruiting and retaining faculty. Okay, well, what has happened to campus operations, right? So COVID-19, we have masking recommending indoors. Otherwise, you see the campus, right? Most of our activities are normal. We're out here again so that we can be together without a mask, and I think that's actually nice. Now, the biggest news and the most disrupting event in the last, in recent times, it was the United Auto Workers strike by researchers, teaching assistants, and GSR. So this is very disruptive. We don't know how disruptive, but it is, just to put it in general terms, this redefines in some ways, at least in paper, the relation that faculty and students have, because what used to be, especially in physical sciences, a mentoring or apprenticeship type relation has become more of a laboral relation. And that there is good aspects to it, that the interests of the students and researchers are protected, which they should be. But it creates some tension in terms of, faculty and student relation, especially in cases like in GSRs where the funds that support the students are really very hard to obtain by the faculty through extramural funding. So, there is, I've heard of, there's a certain levels of resentment, of uneasiness. I don't think those issues are very deeply rooted in physical sciences, but I wouldn't want to presume that, and we will be looking at that. So let me just tell you what happened, right? So the union requested impossibly high salary increases. So the salaries that they were requesting were over $100,000 for a teaching assistant, right? So it's nonsensical. I mean, our teaching assistants will be making more money than many of our staff, who are already professionals and are working there. So it was just a non-starter, and it's very unfortunate that I think that the strike was voted ahead under those conditions, because I think there was a huge lack of understanding and information. The strike, as you probably heard, lasted about 6 weeks from early November to late December. For the most part, I think it was peaceful and respectful. So, you could come to campus, students could come take their courses. Many of their TAs, not all of them, would be on strike. So that affected, our education. So grading, discussion hours, all of that was deeply affected. Our faculty had to take the responsibilities of grading, And it depends on the discipline, right? So I feel for my colleagues in the humanities when you have to read, long essays of, 300 students. I mean, how do you do that, right? It would be pretty impossible. Good or bad, all the negotiations were carried out at the level of the Office of the President. So we were not really engaged and able. And that was really bad because the negotiators at the level of the Office of the President didn't really understand, our position, our situation, and the subtleties between different departments, different group of students, and things like that. And it was negotiated in a blanket fashion. For instance, one of the negotiations is that now we have to hire postdocs on a 2-year contract from the beginning. It would be 1-year contract negotiable to 2 years or even 3 years on occasion. Now, there are many funding agencies that will not give you a 2-year contract. They will pay for a 1-year contract. So what that means is that faculty who have access to those funds will not be able to execute them in the same way, right? So there are issues that are not going to work out well. As I did say, there are major disruptions to undergraduate students and to their instructors. So, you may have heard the settlement was really on Christmas Day, and unprecedented salary increases were approved. So, just to give you an idea, the campus liabilities over the next 3 years are estimated to be over $100 million. So, and they just do not exist. They're not part of the budget. So it is unclear. Our liabilities in physical sciences are about $29 million. So that's the deficit that we have as we will bring the salary of our students from their current stipend to the required stipend, in addition to other accommodations that were negotiated. As I did mention, work needs to be done to heal the community. And so it's been difficult, to be honest. And it's, but it's heterogeneous also, right? So like everything else. So we had units on campus where students were really, really underpaid, right? So where the salaries were low, and they would sometimes be hired at a fraction of of that particular salary. And there were other units on campus that basically they're not going to be affected because they are already covering to the level that is being renegotiated. So it's a mixed bag. However, you will not be surprised that the largest number of graduate students on this campus are students in physical sciences. We have more graduate students than any other division, any professional school. So we have to basically take the biggest financial challenge. And we don't know exactly, we're in the process of working that out. You cannot see here because it's, there is a ribbon that covers it, but I think we've been talking about this for a long time, but really probably not working as hard as we need to. But this really highlights the importance of endowed fellowships, right? So a student on a fellowship is not an employee, it's a student, right? And so a fellowship will give our students an opportunity to really work on their scholarship without the pressures of that now are being imposed through the contract negotiations. Some of them are could be coming from the faculty, but some are also coming from the contract. So this is where we are. Any questions on that? Okay, let's keep going. In addition, other physical sciences and campus operations, so work keeps ongoing for UCLA to become a Hispanic serving institution by 2025. So, by becoming a Hispanic service institution, we will have access to federal and state funds that will help us, serve our students better. So there's incentives to do that. Some of our peers, including Santa Barbara, I think for sure Irvine, no doubt Merced, several UC campuses are already HSIs. Berkeley is really, really close. To have that designation, you have to have 25% of your enrolled students to declare themselves Hispanic or Latinx. We are at about 22%. So we're close, but not quite there yet. Now, when you talk about our colleagues in admissions, what they tell us is that we are losing, what would bring us to the 25% and above, we're losing because our competitors are giving our students slightly better offers. So we need to figure out how to bring resources to make sure that those students that we're losing will come to campus. In another news, since our last meeting, Darnell Hunt, former Dean of Social Sciences, was appointed the Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to meet Darnell, but he's an incredible scholar, a very bright guy. I'm so happy that he got the job because I think he was really the right person for the job. And he understands the college extremely well. So we have expectations that he will support the mission of the college. Now, if you want to sort of summarize Darnell's vision for the campus in 2 words, is inclusive excellence. So he really thinks that our campus should be accessible to the population of the state. Anyone who is bright and motivated and can help transform our society should have access and have a really good experience while being here. He's also very motivated to have a deeper engagement with the Los Angeles community and the state, and also internationally, to make really UCLA a center of inclusive excellence. Our Vice Chancellor and Chief Financial Officers and Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic Budget and Planning, we have interim people in that position, and that makes the finances and the campus situation a little bit unclear, because they cannot make really long-term commitments. But we expect that searches will be announced very soon for them. Return in-person activities, of course, that is obvious. One item that I'm sure would elicit a lot of interest is the fact that UCLA, as you might have heard, acquired the Marymount University campus in Palo Verdes. Excuse me. I'll take that. So this is viewed as an opportunity for UCLA to experiment, right? So we will have a satellite campus. We can experiment in many dimensions of education and research. And the incentive to acquiring this campus is an opportunity to accommodate mandated enrollment expansion. I think there is just no place to grow here in Westwood. And by having a satellite campus, there is a hope and an expectation that we'll have an opportunity to do something interesting and meaningful and exciting. So we don't know yet how that will be used. So some of the ideas is, you could have a school of the environment there, right? You're close to the port. You're close to an industrial community where, environmental issues are important. The local community, very local, and nearby community are very diverse in terms of who they are and their finances and things like that. So that's going to be a really interesting opportunity. The financial state of the division is not very different than what we talked about last time. So we remain very vulnerable due to the decreased state support and unfounded salary and benefit increases. We are still spending another round of revenging, and then of course we have to add the liabilities from the strike. So we're in a little bit of an uncertain situation. However, a dilute version of the brewing budget model is likely to launch on July 1st. What this means is that the portion of the general ledger that comes to physical sciences and to all units will vary year to year as a function of enrollments. It used to be that you could grow, you could or decrease your enrollments, and the budget really didn't change much. So there is at least a logic to that. The only issue is that departments like mathematics, they couldn't grow. I mean, where are they going to grow, right? So what that requires is that there needs to be some corrections made as a function of time. And that's going to be the message that we will pass on to academic planning and budget and to the provost. Yes.
We talked about this briefly last time, but it would motivate the departments to focus on retention.
Right.
That drives their numbers and therefore budget.
Exactly.
Have looked at undergraduate retention by department and how successful they are at either
Yeah.
accumulating majors or
Right. So for those of you who are online that probably didn't hear Davida's comment, David is asking about, we previously talked about improving the persistence, is the word that we use, of our students in physical sciences. The statistics that we talked about previously is that when we looked at it carefully, which was a long time ago, was probably 2016, only 40% of our students, only 40% of the students who declared themselves physical sciences majors graduated with a major in physical sciences. So we were bleeding up to 60% of our original student group. And indeed, this is one of the most important sources of increased enrollments in the division, which by the new budget model will translate into additional funding. There's going to be a sweet spot, right, between what is the optimum in terms of the enrollment and the faculty that you have to support that, and we need to be careful about that. And I think I might have a little bit more on that. We're still working on budget cuts that were established a couple of years ago, so we need to have some budget cuts done by 2025. Either cutting programs or staff or moving expenditure to non-state accounts, which is what we have been doing. And we still do not know how we will meet our obligations to cover TA and GSR salaries. So that's the big unknown right now. This is basically what you were talking about, Davida, right? So our drug incentives is to increase our income, is to retain students into our majors. So the strategy that we're beginning to explore is to make AOS and EPSS much more appealing to potential physics and math and chem majors, right? That maybe say, well, math was not for me, but I really like to think about geology or something. So market those majors and have some of our students transition potentially into those. We're also creating a pilot bridge program that is in progress. I will talk more about that next time. The pilot program is particularly aimed at helping students who will come and struggle in our majors. Very often this is inadequate preparation in math courses. Sometimes algebra, sometimes calculus, and sometimes also the insecurity that many of our students have. That do not quite feel a sense of belonging. So it's a complex issue, but we're working on that. I didn't put it here, but working with Tracy Johnson, the Dean of Life Sciences, and Adriana Galvan, the Dean of Undergraduate Education, we just assured a significant gift from Chuck Lorre, the producer of the Big Bang Theory and several other shows. So we are about to launch the Lorre Academy, which is going to be, and this is his initial gift, I believe, is $20 million. So it's going to be pretty significant, and that comes to the college. But Chuck's particularly interested in STEM students, so a lot of it is life sciences and physical sciences, so that's really good news. In terms of a matching gift program, so what we're doing is we're trying to improve our graduate student support. So we want to copy Caltech. So Caltech has an ongoing program where they match graduate student support at 50%. And I don't know exactly what their success rate, but I think it's something that we can do with our current resources to try to increase the support of grad students. And in particular, we want to put a little bit more effort in increasing our diversity and inclusion. So for GIFs aim at improving our diversity, we will keep our one-to-one match, both through the end of this fiscal year. Okay, I'm going to skip this, and maybe I'll skip this as well, because I'd like us to take an opportunity to spend some time on telling you about opportunities and some of the initiatives that we have in physical sciences. So the philosophy or initiatives are based on those 4 points, right? So we want to be mindful and take advantage of rapidly advancing sectors of science and technology, where there are increased major government and private investments, where there are promising technology and economic drivers. Take advantage of our geography, right? So we are in the middle of the aerospace, industry, and maybe we can engage better in that, what that means. And of course, take the responsibility that we have as an academic institution to develop the workforce that is going to help us advance those sectors of science and technology. So the way we do it, we need to do workforce development is in two specific areas, right? So preparing the experts in the basic science, and those will be the academic bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs. But increase our presence in terms of workforce development through professional self-supporting degree programs. And this is a major opportunity for us to improve our impact and our resources. So there are 4 critical initiatives that I think we want to consider. Let me see if I can. Can I get rid of this thing? I wonder. Is there a way that I can move this somewhere else? Those of you experts on PCs. How do you do that? Oh, thank you. That was so easy. I wish I had known that half an hour ago. So there are 3 initiatives that I've talked to you at various points about. One that is really going well, relatively mature, the Center for Quantum Science and Engineering. So quantum science and engineering is exploding, and the workforce just doesn't exist. Right? So you know, we want to fill that vacuum. And this is a joint effort of a number of departments in physical sciences and in engineering. The second initiative is space and planetary sciences and exploration and technology. And another area of incredible growth right now. A lot of investment, a lot of venture capital going there. And guess what? Another area where there is just no workforce, the workforce needed for that is just not there. I talked to the director of Caltech a few months ago, and he was telling me that the number of unfilled positions that they have at, not Caltech, JPL, and the number of unfilled positions at JPL is in the hundreds, like 300 or 400. And they're losing people to the private sector. So it gives you an idea of how much a workforce is needed for this industry. Then plasma science. So plasma science is an incredible opportunity that we have here at UCLA. We have some close-guarded secrets in terms of our assets and resources. And then the one that I want to present to you, mostly for the first time, is wildfire mitigation and resilience, which is another really major initiative that we're launching right now. So let me briefly go through those. Okay, so what is the advance? I'm going to need help again. I cannot move it forward for some reason. That usually is a little thing here, right? I am exposing like my PC illiteracy. Okay, thank you. So let's briefly go through this, especially when there is some news to share. So the Quantum Science and Engineering Initiative, right? We have the center. The center is well established. We have made major investments. We were also, well, this is an area that is so important that I think I shared with you previously that for the first time we were able to secure a very significant gift from an industry. In this case, we got a $5 million gift from Boeing. Now, Boeing is the parent company of HRL, and HRL is really the unit that is developing quantum science and engineering. But the gift is a Boeing gift. So thanks to that, we've been able to do things that we couldn't do otherwise. For instance, we stole Jason Petta from Princeton. They don't like me in Princeton. So Jason is the foremost scientist in the area of qubit development on silicon platforms, which presumably is the closest to application, right? Because silicon is so mature. And Jason is developing ways to create things like Josephson junctions and things like that on a silicon platform that in principle then you can use existing technology and bring it up. So we will see, right? Then we have our executive director and education director. They're both quantum physicists that are playing different roles in the institute. Barack Bussell, our project manager, is also an alumnus of the physics department and also a venture capitalist and entrepreneur. And David Leibrand, I introduced David before, so he is the person who can measure things most accurately in the world. So he does measurements using lasers that when you get 37, 40, 45 significant units. And by doing that, he's able to question the fundamental laws of physics, not by looking at very high energy particles, but by looking at the concordance and precisions of physical phenomena. Really spectacular. What I want to share with you today is that this group have formulated in the work with HRL and actually with government the creation of a quantum information hub that will be basically UCLA. The plan is that UCLA will be the home of the quantum information hub, but it will be basically an ecosystem that brings academia, industry, and venture capital into the area of quantum information theory. So it's a consortium. Now, the Quantum Information Hub is called a hub because it will not be on campus. The idea is that this is an out-of-campus unit or a quantum campus, if you want to call it that way, where we don't have many of the limitations of being within a purely academic environment. We already have talked and partial commitment of many companies, so this is really exciting. So this is a collaboration of us with industry and government support. Again, you see some of the companies interested in being part of the Quantum Hub, which I think is quite exciting. You wouldn't probably know when you look at it, but LPS on the right of this group, the Laboratory for Physical Sciences, that is a government entity, is part of the National Security Agency, the NSA. So they're the people who are trying to develop quantum cryptography, for example, for national security issues. This is an old slide, so this is incomplete, but we have full support of Chancellor Block, Executive Vice Chancellor Hunt, Vice Chancellor Wakimoto, the Deans of Engineering, Physical Sciences, and the Dean of the Anderson School of Business is becoming engaged. So this is very exciting. So what's happening is now Barack Bussell's project, his project was to find the site. Look for a building in the area that could be the home for the Quantum Hub. And so Barack he basically looked at the entire West Los Angeles, and he identified some buildings and came up with basically a business model. I'm just showing one of the properties that he found. So there is this property in Silicon Beach. So we will call it the Del Rey campus for now. The address, as you see there, is 4800 Allard Road, Del Rey. So it's 162,000 square feet. The available space is 60,000 right now. The estimated acquisition price is $129.6 million. Capital expenditure is 26. Finance amount 160. Blah blah blah. Right. So this is a very ambitious project, and the business model is that it'll become self-sustainable because industry will basically help us pay as tenants, and there is a financial model for this. So this is, again, one of the most ambitious initiatives. Certainly, it's the most ambitious initiative I've ever been involved to, right? And this really is made possible by the interest of the local industry and government. Right, so they really validate the need. And the vision is that, Los Angeles will be, sometimes we call it the Southwest spin center, because we will be looking at qubits based on electron spins. So this is, sort of exciting news. Yes, Michael.
How would it actually work in practice? Because you've got all these companies who are competitors. I mean, how is the information going to be shared? How are the projects going to be defined that make sense for everyone?
That is very true, right? So to bring in all these competing entities into the same space, I mean, it has pros and cons, right? But I think there is an understanding in the community and in the area that the realization of quantum information theory and quantum computing will really be a very interrelated effort, where not only industry and academia, but different branches of industry need to collaborate. So the rules of those interactions are still being developed, but everybody is enthusiastic about it. So everybody is aware of intellectual property issues and things like that. But I think, so the principle is, I think, that everybody's coming to the table understanding that there could be, interesting issues in terms of basic science and development that can be shared, and then the progress in the field could be faster. I think that's a good way to put it. So that's quantum. So plasma science and engineering is another area where we have great opportunities, right? So, like I said, UCLA has large assets and investment in plasma, and many of us do not even know. Some of you might know, but you see, we have big science level facilities nearby to do plasma science. And we have also the Plasma Science and Technology Institute, which, so we already have the organization, but we're ready to make an investment to bring in really a quantum leap above what it is right now. You probably saw this, right? So this news was just a few weeks ago. That was December 13, when the U.S. Secretary Granholm announced a breakthrough in nuclear energy. I mean, these breakthroughs, this news have been percolating for the last 18 months. It was imminent that we would see, fusion burning sustained. And now what is announced here is for the first time there is a small net energy gain. So the science has moved forward. The engineering is still way behind, but there is still a lot of science to be done. I think everybody's noticing that, right? So these are, news that occurred last year or even the year before, but there is already a sense and effervescence in the community that nuclear fusion is a good thing to invest. We don't know if it's going to work. We don't know what it's going to take yet. I think it would be very premature to say that this problem is going to solve in 5 years or in 10 years. But if you're talking about deep technology, this is it, right? And this could be transformative. So there has been, billion-dollar level private investments in fusion recently. And the article, the Wall Street article here on the bottom left, bottom right, is nuclear fission startup lands $8.1 billion as investors chase star power. Guess what? Where are the people that are going to work on this, right? They're not there. They do not exist. So that's, again, when, a deep technology with a large investment is a great opportunity for us to train the workforce. And we did really have the means to do that. Some of you might have been close to the STRB, the Science and Technology Research Building. That is in Westwood, close to the Elysee Cafe in that area, or what do they call it? There is a little health unit there also. So this is inconspicuous building uses more energy there than the entire Westwood and the rest of the campus. We have some of the largest plasma devices that exist. So what you see here is a picture of the LAPD, the large plasma device. Plasma physicists are funny, right? So this is 25-meter long, 1 meter diameter is the area under vacuum where you can have the plasma. The total mass is about 100 tons. So this is a pretty darn big instrument where you can make plasmas that simulate, approach the conditions that occur in the sun, right? And our plasma physicists come and do experiments, and we open this facility for plasma scientists across the world, the country to come. This is in part supported by the Department of Energy, but UCLA has a huge investment in this area, in this building, enormous investment. We also have one of the largest tokamak toroidal, facilities in the country. So this is again in that building. Don't tell anyone that I said it, right? But if the cooling systems were to fail, instead of the CRV, we probably find a big hole in the ground. It's a lot of energy that this is used. The energy bill for this building per year is on the order of $200,000. So it's pretty impressive. And we are ranked on the top 2 to 3 physics departments in plasma science. So along with MIT and Princeton and UCLA. So very impressive. So clearly there is opportunities here, right? And this is again sort of in the emerging areas of what we want to do. We've talked also about the Space Institute, right? I will be very brief, but again, it is an emerging technology, emerging science, not very strong in the current workforce. A lot of interest, a lot of venture capital. Most of the companies, or many of the companies engaged in this area, they're here in Southern California. I have a partial list here. And the projected space economy is just mind-boggling, right? If I understand correctly, right now it's on the order of maybe 700 million. So, projections to 2.7 trillion they're not not unreasonable. So this is another area where we really have great opportunities. And the question would be, why UCLA, right? Well, again, we have some of the most powerful tools and valuable assets to study space, both here on Earth and look at out space and simulate conditions that are needed. We have amazing faculty, right? So I've just selected Andrea to make the point. We have incredibly motivated students and engaged alumni. So I decided to include a picture of Anna Fisher in the space shuttle here. So thank you, Anna. Because I think, what I want to say is that our engaged alumni and people like yourselves, our advisory board, have been really important for us to be able to do that. So I think this is incredibly exciting. So we are in the process of hiring an executive director and a senior faculty that, again, will help us launch these efforts even further and faster. And this is the last initiative, right? So I'm taking here part of a beautiful brochure prepared by our development team. So this is just part of it. I think we can probably find this and share it with you if you're interested. But we know that wildfire is one of the most obvious manifestations of something going on with the climate, right? And it's just, the statistics are mind-boggling. It's kind of, blocked there, but the the numbers are just incredible in terms of the cost to the economy, the impact. Everything about it is just really pretty amazing to think about that. And the fact is that we do not understand, all the science behind wildfires, right? So, protecting the forest for a long time and preventing fires apparently was not a good idea, right? So the systems are out of equilibrium, but what is equilibrium and what determines the equilibrium? Do we know enough about the humidity fluctuations, across the state in different zones? What are the environmental issues on a fire on a forest of a particular tree, or a forest where you have chaparral or different types, right? So there's so many questions.
Is there any political science involvement in this issue? Because it seems to me this is more of a political problem than a science problem.
That's right. So this is very much an extremely interdisciplinary problem, right? So there is a room for physical scientists, atmospheric scientists, and so on. But you're right, this needs to be extremely interdisciplinary. So, and the California Wildfire Institute, it aims at being housed at the Institute of the Environment and Sustainability, and bring the entire campus community into it, including, as you say, law, law, business, biology.
Stop building a $10 million house in the middle of the woods.
That would be a good idea, right? Knowing, have a better metrics of all the risks and the costs.
And also acknowledgement of climate change bringing more extreme conditions.
That's right.
Environmental science. But you mentioned recent discoveries when you were on other topics, and there was something recent about directing lightning strikes in the news, which I could see falling into this area of study as a mitigation
Yeah.
tool.
Yeah, I mean, there is many areas that can play a role in wildfires, and I think that's the issue, right? There is, if you talk to Alex Hall from AOS, who's leading this effort, he will let us know that there is not even documentation of of the basic parameters that you like to know to understand why, what are the risks, what are the causes, things like that. There is a lot of work that needs to be done. Right, so these are just amazing graphics that I think are striking and definitely will, something that we already know, but it's mind-boggling, right? And yes, I would say it will take a long coordinated effort that we will look at research and policy and every aspect of it. That is acknowledged, yes. And so there is a California Wildfire Institute that was already that started again, where Alex Holt was the one of the leaders, and that's housed in the Tahoe area. So the California Wildfire Institute at UCLA basically will partner with the Wildfire Institute that currently exists. But we will take much more of an academic and approach to the problem. Right, climate change and wildfire, so amazing pictures. Air quality affects not only locally, but obviously when we see the wildfires in Malibu here, we cannot breathe, right? So it affects everyone. So. We started a campaign on this a few weeks ago. Brooke's not here, but I think we started maybe 6 weeks. Oh, you're here. Well, I think the first event on this on campus was about 6 weeks ago.
September.
December?
September.
Oh, September. So more like maybe more weeks than that. Right. And I think, this is, I think, drawing a significant level of attention. I mean, this is a really important issue that affects a lot of people. So we really want to make sure that we launch this and really give it the resources that it needs to be transformative, right? So that we really have, the information and the people that will help us, address this in the future. Very quickly, so a little report on recent gift highlights. These are gifts over $5,000 since July 1st. So we're very grateful, obviously, to everyone listed here. You see there is some pretty amazing gifts, including a foundation gift from the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation of $5 million. And I'm not going to read all of them, but I mean, this is the sort of thing that will make us resilient in the long term, right? That is going to make us successful despite, oscillations in state support and other things. So this is really been critical to what we do. I think you might want to see here that, what is it? Yeah, the second bullet there is shortly after the first event that we had, someone came and with a gift of $2 million, which I don't think we ever launched an initiative that compelling, that so quickly, we had some level of support, and that gives us a lot of hope that this will be very successful. And I think that's it. So questions? Why don't I share the mic as we go around? You control this? Okay.
Okay, sorry, I'm the pesky one with a lot of questions. So we talked about funding,
Yeah.
and there are a number of initiatives of significant importance. But as you talk about funding challenges and opportunities to meet them, aside from donations, what are the most effective at
Yeah.
moving the needle so that maybe we as a board can help brainstorm with you or help bring resources in terms of whether it's retention of undergraduate students, because if you have that persistence,
Yeah.
you build the budget for that department and therefore the division,
Yeah.
and you can use that to pay the TAs, you can
Right.
use that to pursue these new initiatives, but what aspects of funding opportunities are maybe in order of priority, your top three?
Right. So, the most impactful part of our budget is based on our core business and mission, right, which is education. So by and large, I think our ability to deliver the best education to our students and develop, their loyalty and all that, education will be good in the short term and in the long term. And so, what we need really is more resources, like you said, to retain students who walk away from physical sciences departments for a number of reasons. And part of their education is, to the opportunity to have a teaching assistants, to have graduate students that will be part of their education. So it's a bit of a balance. But I think, yes, the biggest impact would be retention. And the one possible way to address retention and persistence is through support programs like bridge programs. So I will make a more detailed presentation, but we have a super incredibly motivated UCLA recent math graduate who is she's developing a bridge program, and so I thought I was going to need a budget of maybe $50,000 for this program. I mean, she's developing something so ambitious, so deep, so good that and this is a pilot, right? So we want this bridge program to be impactful and successful, so that we can make it self-sustainable. Because I will not be able to sustain it for too long, but I can launch it. And so things like this are things, to deliver and provide educational services to our students that help them be successful. So that's a very complex answer right now because, you need really good faculty. We need to clone people like Neil Garg and others. Right? We need, obviously, very good graduate students that will do the research, and not only the research, but also the help with the teaching, right? And we need to be able to provide an education that is based on equity, not equality, right? Where we provide the resources at the support that each student needs, that they're going to be very different. So those are the sort of things I think that can help us more. So in terms of what they mean is we need to be able to invest in bridge programs and programs that help us help our students who need help, have a sustainable and healthy graduate program, and continue to be able to recruit the faculty that will teach them.
Oh, Miguel, I'm of course concerned as you are with the $100 million deficit you projected. So the usual suspects are things like student tuition,
Yeah.
which exactly is the wrong thing to do because you're trying to attract students who may not be economically advantaged.
Right.
So what are the sources that are being discussed for bridging the gap?
Well, it is not clear, right? So the source that would make the most sense is state support. So the legislature supported the strike, right? And the office of the president made the negotiations, so we were not part of it. So it makes sense that those negotiations would have considered how to bridge the gap that is now being created. And conceivably, so maybe the state will step up and help to some extent. It's doubtful, right? based on what we know. So we have a lot of conversations about what we need to do to bridge the gap right now. Because it's true, our current TA budget, let's say if today we can support, I'm going to make it up, 100 TAs, at the new salaries, we're going to be able to support more like 60. So what that means is that maybe the educational mission will suffer, but those students, the grad students that we have to pay in some way or another, right? So what that means is that we will have to reduce the size of some of our graduate programs, or find ways to, this goes back to what I've always thought and said, right? That different units on campus have different opportunities and different business models and slightly different challenges. So when I think about physical sciences, what I think, well, our strategic initiatives are basically it, right? So because those will help us develop professional degree programs to create that workforce, and that will bring resources to the campus. But what do I don't know, other departments can do, other areas of the campus, right? Like philosophy, for example. Although philosophy has an amazing level of philanthropy, which maybe that's the solution, right? That's a really good question.
I have 3 questions.
Oh, there's a mic coming for you. Got it.
I have 3 questions
Yeah.
about the student body. You gave us this handy sheet about statistics, the entering class. Freshmen, 6,462. Do you know the breakdown, female and male, in that entering class?
It's not. I thought it would be here.
I
Maybe
don't
not.
think it is.
Okay, so I cannot be sure, but I believe that we have a slight excess of women on campus.
Yeah, I'm asking because there are many campuses that are seeing
Right.
more and more becoming a preponderance of female
Yes.
students.
4% male and 55.67 female.
Okay.
There you have it.
The second question I had, Miguel, was 28% low income. Do we know what that cutoff is? What is low income?
I do not know the actual number. So no, I do not know. But I think those would be the students who are eligible for Pell Grants. So there's a metric for it that I do not know in detail. Let's see.
70,000 for the household.
70,000. Okay. Oh, that's right. You were in admissions, right?
Well, last question. You mentioned earlier that you only retain 40% of declared majors in the physical sciences.
That was actually 6 years, numbers for 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
I was wondering, these declared majors, are these first years coming in saying I want to be a physics major, or are these juniors saying I want to be a physics major?
Oh, that's a very good question. So the numbers pertain to the freshmen.
Okay.
So it is which, speaks to the vulnerability of the lower division students, right? So the success rate, or let's call it the persistence of transfer students, is very interesting. It's quite high, like 85%, and there is no gap between URM and non-URM. So URM transfer students graduate at the same rate as non-URM.
Okay.
However, at the freshman level, well, 6 years ago, I think the numbers are much better now, maybe by 10% or so. But the stats back then were that 40% of the total student population would walk out of physical sciences major, but 80% of the URM original population will walk out.
Mm-hmm.
So a very, very large gap.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Other questions? Okay, so maybe then let's go to the. I think this is the last section. So recent activities and events. So this is a recap. Oh, there it is. The California Wildfire Institute dinner at the Chancellor residence. That was September 15. As Rachel said, that is correct. But as you see here, the activity in our departments has been really healthy. I mean, most of these events, play the role of bringing our community together and sharing what goes on in our campus and in our departments with our alumni and our supporters. So I think we have a healthy level of activity, and I'm very pleased for that. And I thank our development team for all their efforts in this happening. Yeah, I mean, I think we have some images here, if I remember correctly. So I don't know if I want to, take a lot. I mean, we see the Chancellor block with Keith and Cecilia Terasaki when we had the Terasaki chair installation to Professor Alvin Kamaha. So that was a nice event. On the opposite corner, we had the incredible Nobel Celebration Week in Stockholm, where there was a good group gathered together to celebrate Andrea's Nobel Prize. So what else we have? We have an event in EPSS on the middle right. I don't recognize. I'm not sure if I recognize the pictures on the top left and bottom right, but nice events nonetheless. And these are the upcoming events. So please, maybe check your mark your calendars, and if you can join us, that would be really great. Tomorrow, we have the EPS Distinguished Alumni Lecture. So this is a really beautiful event because it is an opportunity to bring an alumnus back to campus and celebrate, in this case, her accomplishments. And these are alumni who have been successful in not necessarily in the discipline, but in many areas of their profession. We have this is the Grand Challenge Traction Kickoff. I don't know too much about that. So if you want to tell us something about that?
The Sustainability Grand Challenge is looking at transportation as a major issue to tackle in Los Angeles. And they're having a big kickoff event tomorrow, and they'll have working groups with experts to tackle this huge issue in LA, and it will be a 2-year project.
Oh, okay.
They're working with LA Metro and a lot of partner organizations.
Right. Thank you. a SETI Citizen Science launch on February 2016, Environmental Justice Series starting on February 24, the Musa J. Arman Colloquium, Science and Innovation in Astronomy, and we will celebrate our dear colleague Kwon Liu, who passed either last year or the year before, and we were able to get an endowment to have the opportunity to create a memorial lecture. So we will get to celebrate his, his influence in the Department of Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences. Where he was a giant. He was a great citizen and a great colleague and a good mentor. And we're so happy that we can recognize that. Closing. So I guess we have a Chairs Council meeting in the spring. So I guess each department or our development team will reach out to you. And our next board meeting, so we're talking about Monday, April 24th. Was there another date? Or Friday, May 5th. Okay. So if you can save those days in your calendar.
Well, what's going to decide between April and May? What's the issue?
There might be a meeting that Miguel is in on the 5th. So it's tentative right now. We don't know.
Which meeting is that? Can you remind me?
The FEC one? FEC.
Oh, I see. The Faculty Forward Initiative. FFI?
FEC.
Okay. Maybe.
15 people said they're going. It looks like there's more 20-something people who haven't said anything. So I don't know. But
Okay.
either of those things.
All right. So it's my fault. Sorry about that. Okay. So.
And then Miguel,
Yeah.
one of the gifts that came in this year was part of our initiative to have part of our one of the gifts that came in as part of your vision to have an endowment for all of the administrative chairs.
Oh, yeah.
So if you wanted to talk about that.
That's right. So this is one of the hardest times of the year for me, January, February, because this is the time where I need to start consultation in departments when we have rotating chairs, right? So the chair of every department stays in the job for 3 years, and then they rotate out, and you need to appoint someone else. And of course, no one wants to do it. And there are many reasons for that, right? Because everybody wants to be dedicated to their science and their scholarship, which is good. None of us gets any training in this job, so you kind of have to learn on the job. It's an intimidating job, right? You have to stand before an amazing group of people and say something that makes sense all the time. There are many reasons. But really, the research aspect of it is one of the key ones that we don't want to take away from our research. So one way that works very well is to create administrative chairs, where an endowed chair that is for the department chair for the duration of the term, where the income from the chair is split between opportunities to develop new initiatives in the department that they would not have the resources for, and some funds that they can use for the research. And so we've been thinking that we should campaign to endow all of our department chairs, and in fact there should be someone for my position, because nobody's going to want my job when I step down. So in other words, we need to bribe people to do this work, right? And so we had a breakthrough because we had a gift. It is for EPSS, right? For AOS, and this is our very first endowed chairs. Will you help me? Will you remember the name of the donor, because it's escaping me?
It's Mikio and Yoko Yanai.
Oh, yes, Mikio and Yoko Yanai. So the Yanais are basically, UCLA advocates. Mikio Janai was a professor in atmospheric and oceanic sciences. And he was one of the most influential atmospheric scientists of a long time. He's one of the people who's credited for the development of weather prediction. I don't know if you know, but actually weather prediction is a thing that really started at UCLA. And Michio was one of the people who made it possible. Michio discovered El Niño, La Niña, and he was able to understand weather patterns in ways that could never be done before. So that's right. So it just, it highlights the dedication of our faculty, to the campus and how they really believe in the mission of UCLA, which I think is really impressive. Thank you for reminding me of that, Amber. Anyone has any comment, any suggestion?
So I was just suggesting, gosh, it's so loud. I was just suggesting to Brooke that it might be too small for DataFest, but certainly you have in physical sciences the expertise to do some data analysis to see what the persistence has been in undergraduate programs. So I was drawing out a chart to say if you were to look year over year for 5 years of history at things like how many people come in declared, how many people come in the pre-major, or I'm sorry, are in the pre-major that year, in the real major, what's the number of faculty, what's the number of TAs, how many graduate, and you could continue to add columns to that year over year to look at trends to try to find what levers affect retention. When I'm looking with my kids, I always look at the Rate My Professor, but UCLA has their own proprietary, I don't know what it's called, Bruin something, where they rate their professors, but to look at average rating per department to see what are influencers in undergraduate student support that maybe you would be able to do something different about, but you have best-in-class expertise here in physical sciences to be able to crunch those numbers and evaluate levers. And then you could brainstorm further to say, okay, we're not seeing something emerge, and obviously it's going to be correlation of things, but you could brainstorm more data factors to add.
Thank you, David. Those are really good suggestions and a great point. It just so happened that, when was it? Probably in September, we hired a professional to do just that. So we have someone who's doing taking a deep dive into the data, and at the same time, what she's doing is trying to understand the factors that go into the decision making of our students. So she's an education specialist that has training in physical sciences, but also in the social sciences. So we're finally doing what we've been doing for quite a long time. Is we've been working on interventions that are reported to help increase the persistence. So that's why I think our numbers are much better now, but we need the data.